Good evening friends, welcome to PSIR Analytica. This is the 6th week, day 1. So this week we will be discussing questions on the IGP part, that is the Indian government and politics. So let us take a look at today's question. Today's question was that, do you agree that Indian Parliament is sovereign? So this is the question which has been asked. Now how do you address the question? I'll tell you the structure, what you can do. First, you define what do you mean by parliamentary sovereignty. You need to define what is parliamentary sovereignty, or what do we mean by parliament becomes sovereign. Then you try to address bring points or arguments saying that, comparing to this definition, can we say that Indian Parliament is sovereign or what? So here you can start your answer by saying that, according to A.V. Dicey, he speaks about the concept of parliamentary sovereignty. He is a constitutional theorist. Who argues that Parliament in England is supreme among the three organs of the government, and he says that the parliamentary sovereignty is based on three important principles. One is that the Parliament is the supreme body to enact law. Second one, he says that Parliament law cannot be questioned in the court of law. And third aspect is that Parliament cannot bind its successor with a law which has been made. So then you can bring about, however, when we look at Indian Parliament, you can bring an argument saying that we cannot say Indian Parliament is sovereign. Ram Jethmalani, an senior most advocate, argues that Indian Parliament powers are limited. Now in this regard, you try to link what are the limitations, or why does Parliament is not sovereign. One, in India we have constitutional supremacy, where we have a written constitution, and this written constitution has placed certain limitation on the Parliament's legislative powers in that regard. Second one, you can see the power of judicial review. And you can also cite the example of Menaka Gandhi case, where the Supreme Court started employing the idea of due process of law. This has limited the amending powers of the Parliament in that regard. Third, you can bring about the doctrine of basic structure. Which was enacted in the Keshavananda Bharati case in 1973, which has limited the amending powers of Parliament. And then you can also give the argument of India being a federal country. Parliament does not have all the supreme powers in lawmaking. There can be reasonable restrictions through states, such as certain laws under Article 368 requires ratification from the states. Then you can also see the parliament sovereignty is also limited by the fact of the provisions for ordinance making power. Where the constitution has empowered the executive also to make the law with regards to emergency situation. So you can give the example of the Farm Bill. Then you can write about in India, as Bhikkhu Parekh says, we see a new form of judicial activism where judiciary has entered the sphere of law making. On these grounds, we can argue that the Indian Parliament is not sovereign in that regard. Its powers are limited, and many times you can see the other organs of the government also exercising the powers of the Parliament. But however, we can say the British Parliament is sovereign. The British Parliament is sovereign because there we can see there is no judicial supremacy in that regard. Judiciary only employs procedure established by law. As D. Lolme, a British political scientist, argued that in Britain the Parliament is sovereign to extent that it can change everything and anything except make a man, woman, and woman a man. So in this regard, it is the British Parliament which enjoys sovereignty and it is not the Indian Parliament. This can be the ambit of your answer, friends. So you don't need to fill too much scholars in that regard. Just keep it simple. Define what is parliamentary sovereignty. Then bring arguments saying that why Indian Parliament cannot be considered as sovereign. Then end your answer by comparing, telling that which is a sovereign parliament. It is British Parliament. So this can be the ambit of your answer. So friends, with this we have come to an end to today's session. I'll meet you again tomorrow with a new question. Till then, take care and stay safe.